showcase amazing Australian women speakers. So you get to see the huge amount of talent available. And hopefully we can move the stats from 30% women speakers to 50%. Now, my guest today, I am incredibly excited to have a conversation with. Welcome, Robyn Walker.
Thank you, Jules, Brooke.
And guess what? Technology-wise, we've made it. We are now live. So let's start off, Robyn, by talking about what your talks are all about.
In a nutshell. So in a nutshell, I call it developing human synergy. And people go, what the?
Yeah, that's my next question.
So basically, for me, I've always been fascinated by human behavior, even as a little kid.
Right.
And I guess that's why, I ended up falling, so to speak, into human behavior about 30 plus years ago, because for me...
Oh, wow, that long ago. Like that would have been very cutting edge in those days, I imagine.
Yeah,
we hear a lot about human behavior now, but in those days, people, keep going.
It wasn't a word. No, I was actually in advertising. So I had a really successful advertising career, had my own house, the whole bit. Yeah. And just became a little bit disillusioned with what I saw the materialistic side going.
Yeah.
And, we get wake-up calls. And so for me, it's like I'd always wanted to be a writer. So I thought...
hang on, what was the wake-up call? Was there a moment in that career where you went, you know what, I'm done?
Yeah, there was.
What was it?
Yeah, one of my smaller clients was the Cancer Council of New South Wales.
Right.
And we had just done a breast examination commercial, and a woman had written in to say thank you. She did a self-examination, found a teeny lump. But luckily it was still benign. And so pretty much she said, it saved her life. Synchronistically, at the same time, our head office in America took on a cigarette client. And Cancer Council would not be with an agency that had a cigarette client. So, I'm already having a bit of a social conscious wake up, and I went, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? I've always wanted to be a writer. I wanted to make a difference, hiding behind a typewriter back then.
So, sorry, let me ask, in advertising, were you a copywriter there? Were you one of the writers for advertising?
I was account manager. So I was kind of like between, the link between the agency and creative and the client, which I loved.
Yeah, I did that for years as well, those roles. I really enjoyed it for a time. It has its time, I think.
What was your position?
I ended up as account director, and I freelanced all over London in all sorts of different agencies.
Oh, my God. So you know how much fun it is.
I do. Oh, yeah, no, it's such a great industry when you're young, particularly, I think. But it's really hard. And for me, it was when my child was born, and I thought, you know what, being a mum and working in advertising is not a great fit, really, because, advertising is about early mornings and working through till 2 a.m. if you have to, and traveling. Okay, so you were working in advertising and you decided to do copywriting.
No, I wanted to go out and be a writer.
Oh, be a writer, as in write books.
To write books. So that's when I let the career go and, sold the house, and I found myself in Noosa.
Oh, that's not a bad place to find yourself.
and a number of years down the track, what was then the Hyatt Coolum, it's now the Palm Resort, but the Hyatt Coolum, they had this amazing outdoor rainforest with high ropes and low ropes, and they had companies coming in from all around the world. And so when I saw the ad for experiential corporate team development facilitators, a long name, I just went, oh, my God, it's got my name on it. So,
so you worked in Noosa at the Sheraton. What a job.
The Hyatt. The
Hyatt, across the road from the beach, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice.
So that's where for 5 years I was taught to be seen and heard as a facilitator.
Right.
And then I ended up back in Sydney. And for me, getting back to that original question, what is it that, I do, the developing human synergy. One of the lines that I use now to explain my career path as a facilitator and speaker is from the boardroom to the jailhouse and most points in between. Professional.
Oh, my God. Great,
professionally.
great statement. So I obviously have to ask the question that everyone asks. What do you mean jail?
As in, I was allowed to go in and come out. Now, there's a beautiful organisation, Enough is Enough, Ken Marslew. People may have heard of Ken, Enough is Enough. So when we still had Berrima Women's Jail, I went in there and took my programs in there for the women through Enough is Enough and Ken Marslew.
Oh, brilliant.
Yep. And then more recently, a few years back, I co-facilitated with corrective service facilitators for some of their programs.
Oh my God, I love that. That's very out of left field. I wasn't expecting you to say that. So talk to me a little bit more about your topic and why you particularly like talking about that topic.
Developing human synergy. Well, because within, from the boardroom to the jailhouse, because also my trainings have been for corporate, small business, community orgs. I've traveled around presenting suicide prevention programs in regional New South Wales, worked in mental health, intellectual disability, yada, yada, yada. So in all those very diverse environments, and honestly, I feel so privileged that I've been able to be trained up in the University of Life.
Yeah.
And at the bottom line, we are all people, first and foremost.
True.
Yep. Nothing new under the sun. It's not rocket science. And that's what this journey over the last 30 years has taught me, that when we peel back the layers of human behavior and we start to understand the trauma that people have been through from teeny. Yep. And then we get them in a supportive, safe environment and people start making more conscious, positive choices in their life. Right. Then the key is, Jules, they need to start forgiving themselves for some of the crap stuff they did when they didn't know better.
When it was all unconscious,
When it was all unconscious. So that's why I call it. Yep.
Keep going.
No, that's what I was saying. That's why I call it developing human synergy, because when we understand that, then we all start working together as a collective, as a global village.
Right. So with your talks, are you helping people pull back the layers? How do you do it? Do you identify what the different aspects are of human behavior, or how does your talk go? Well, like, what's the headline of it?
Okay. So it depends on, what the client requires, what their outcome is, But at the end of the day, I also love working with behavioral styles.
Okay.
Because as we start to understand more of how we operate, we start to then understand more about how other people operate.
Right.
So anybody within... Hey?
No, that makes sense, was all I was going to say. Good old technology, just that lag.
Yeah. So anybody that's been within the training field and or human resources, etc., or have been, on various team development programs, they've probably heard of DISC behavioral styles or Myers-Briggs personality profiles.
Yep.
Yeah, all of those. So I love DISC because it's so simple. But over the years, I ended up creating my own, what I call leadership styles.
Okay.
And it's the 4 wise leadership styles. I'll do a quick plug. That's the book.
Go on. Oh, cool. Okay, the 4 wise leadership styles. You've given me that book. I remember now. I've had a look at it. Yeah. So you've created an alternative to DISC in some ways, isn't it?
Not so much an alternative, but it's like everything. They all work together because DISC really trained me up in why I love developing human synergy.
Okay.
Back the layers. Yeah.
Right. So that full circle. Okay. Now, you've talked about obviously talking everywhere from jails to community groups. So I don't know whether my next question really is relevant, but what kind of audiences do you love? What gender, what size, any industry? Is there anything that really rings your bell? Anything. Just want to get up on a stage.
Well, at the end of the day, first and foremost, when you peel back the layers, we're all people. We're all people. And one of the I guess the blessings of what I do, and a lot of people that facilitate and speak often say the same thing. The person that actually is being seen and heard is often the one that learns the most.
Right.
It's privileged.
Yeah.
It's so privileged to be given, to be trusted.
I absolutely agree. It's one of the reasons I love interviewing so much. I learn so much from everyone else's stories. Okay, so I was going to ask you what led to actually speaking as well. So you did the advertising, then you went and wrote the book. When did you first start getting up on stages and why?
So in the journey of facilitation, some of my clients would then say, look, we're having a conference. We'd like you to do a talk. And I'm kind of like, really? Well, see, people, and you would probably understand this, Jules, people don't get it. So when you're facilitating, right, you've got the people in the room. And so it's backwards and forwards. It's a conversation. It's a brainstorm. It's all sorts of stuff. You know, you get them up presenting. But as a speaker, you're it.
And and you don't get that immediate feedback or the conversation in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit over the years, and with a lot of the conference organizers over the years, they've approached me to do various, like a bit of emceeing work and to do a talk. And that's happened in Sydney and Melbourne and WA over the years. But again, there was always this nerves, and but over the last few years, I guess since COVID.
God bless COVID for some of the things.
And that's when I wrote that. That's when
and then once you've written the book, it makes it more obvious, I guess, to then get up on stages, start sharing it, sell the book at the back of the room, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would be 2 key takeaways that people take from your talks? So if they've come to see you, what are they likely to walk away with?
First and foremost, we're absolutely all in this together. And together we're all in. You know, it's a cliche, but it's true. Yeah. And for me, part of the developing a human synergy, it's connecting in here first. So when we connect in here with all our warts and idiosyncrasies and become more conscious of, you know, thinking, saying, especially languaging. So when we connect in here, we're then more able to connect with others on that authentic level. And then as we connect with others, we create in unison. So it's connect, converse, create. You know, it's yet again, I love it. We know all this stuff. I actually call it our innate wisdom. I believe we're all born with it. It's just in our Western culture as kiddies, we haven't necessarily been reminded of this within our village or community.
Or had it developed as being sort of something that you want to develop, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Robyn, is that both? Did you want to tell me another takeaway? Sorry, before I'm itching to start asking about your TV show.
I think the key thing is to become more conscious of our languaging, what we're saying about another person, because our limbic brain, which is interesting, our limbic brain doesn't differentiate between ourselves and another person. So what we're saying and thinking about another person, the limbic brain actually thinks we're saying it about ourselves. It's fascinating.
Oh, gosh, really?
It's, you know, all this quantum physics stuff that all these various learned people are sharing with the world. But again, our ancient wisdom from our Indigenous people, they've always known this. They just didn't language it that way.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, now you had a TV show, which I love, obviously, because I had a little one, but yours was a lot longer than mine, 4 or 5 years. Talk to me a little bit about some of the, I don't know, well, tell me a little bit about how it happened, but also I'm interested to know what you got out of it. What did you love about it? And then we've got to talk about Olivia Newton-John. But let's start with how did you get the gig? How did that start?
Okay, so way back when, Phil Donahue.
Yes.
Yes. So I used to watch Phil Donahue and then Oprah, and I used to think, oh my God, these people are so amazing. But as I watched them, they usually had quite short time frames with their guests.
Yes, very short.
Yep. And this was back in the early 90s. And I thought, you know, one day I'd love to have my own show, but I want the guest on for an hour because I want to find out what was their journey. Because, you know, we see people, we see people in the world doing amazing stuff and we think, oh, you know, that's so easy for them. It's like, no, So that was always something in my consciousness. And many years later, something just twigged, and I thought I need to do a TV presenter course in readiness. I just had a gut feel.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
So I went and did a TV presenter course with TV Pro Global, Sharon Lynn. She's still doing it. Amazing. And when she found out I was a trainer, she actually then got me to train new TV presenters 2 nights a week. So yet again, University of Life was teaching me how to be a presenter, seen and heard. And then through, I was doing a 2-day residential for a client, and the client wanted it filmed. And so I got someone in to film it. And this guy was involved with community TV. And by the way, guess what? Channel 31 is coming back on air because it had been off air for a few years. And I just went, oh my gosh.
There's the universe telling me.
So that's when it was like and I'd never been trained to produce a show, but there was just something, you just follow the dots when you're passionate.
But also, I mean, and you are obviously, I am similar to you. I was going to go, you're similar to me, but I think you went first. But it is also saying yes to opportunities. And a lot of people, I think, would be terrified and go, oh, no, especially women. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly do that. But if you are someone who kind of embraces opportunities and adventures, which you clearly do, then you just go, right, I'm going to go with it. We'll see how I go. I'll learn along the way. What is there to lose? And I love that you did that.
Well, I guess another piece of the puzzle, for many years before that, I used to have, as part of just other things I did at the same time, I used to have my own resume interviewing writing business. So I would interview the person for an hour and a half, write all their details to get their resume. Yeah. So I had learned how to interview through and the resume.
That's those stories. I've never thought about that, but that must be me from PR, because I've learned how to help people, particularly women, pull out a story where they go, oh, I'm nothing special. And you go, oh my God, listen to the story you're telling me.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now talk to me about, so how did you end up in China doing episodes from China and interviewing Olivia Newton-John? I mean, I remember her doing that great walk. Yeah. And I think Neil McMahon, do you know Neil McMahon? I think Neil was there as well. Yes. He's a fabulous journalist. He used to work with me on Handle Your Own PR.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay, so tell me about the trip.
Okay, so that was in April 2008, and the show had been on air since 2006 at that stage.
Okay.
And through a connection of a connection of a connection, they just went, why don't you just ask if you can go and film? And so I did, and that's what happened. And he's recently passed away, bless him, Paul Shedlowich. Paul Shedlowich, amazing filmmaker. He filmed a lot of Conversations with Robyn.
Right.
And so he came with me, and we had Diane Heaven, who was the founder of Curves, with her husband.
Fantastic.
Yeah. She was on, she was on the walk, and so she paid for Paul to do all the editing. She paid for the equipment we had to hire. So we ended up filming 15 half-hour episodes on the walk, which obviously include Olivia. Yeah.
Wow, what a great story. I mean, I love it that I had my own TV show, and then we, shot some of it on the Great Wall of China. It's a pretty good dinner party story.
Yeah, amazing.
Okay, now I know you've only been kind of full-time speaking as such for the last sort of post-COVID, last 4 years, say. But have you had any memorable experiences? And it can be good or bad, but I think there's always stories that come out of getting up on a stage and speaking. So have you got one or two you could share with me?
Well, I was obviously thinking about this. So I'd actually share one from 20 odd years ago when I was traveling around.
Great.
Yeah, when I was traveling around presenting the suicide prevention programs for Life Force.
Right.
Because they were 3-hour presentations to high schools and community groups.
Okay.
And the reason I thought I'd share this is because it might help someone who's listening.
Yeah.
one of the terms they used in talking about suicide prevention, because it's quite a, painful topic,
Absolutely,
is psychache, and people don't understand psychache. And when I talk about, because I had been trained up to obviously present these programs, when I spoke about it in these presentations to the community groups, so many people would come up afterwards and say, thank you so much for explaining what psychache is, because when someone we so love has taken their life, and we just go, how did I not see? How?
Yes.
So we people could, Anyway, so
what is psychache?
Okay, so psychache, and the way that it was explained to me when I was being trained up is, imagine someone has said to you, go to the greatest restaurant in Sydney. I'm going to pay for you, 20 of your friends, all the food and the drink, all on you. And imagine that night comes and all of a sudden you've got a toothache, a really bad toothache.
Right.
Where's your focus? It's the toothache.
Right.
And are you enjoying yourself? Probably not. But the next day you can go to a dentist. So what they say is psychache is kind of like having that pain 24 hours a day, day in, day out, except it's here. And it just is constantly in your psyche, and it just does your head in, and it doesn't stop. And that's where they say it's not that people want to pass away. They don't. They just want to stop
it.
The pain. And, there can be that split moment where if someone had been able to know what they were thinking and led them away, then they wouldn't have. But we don't know the damage that psychache does if we don't understand it.
No, or if we can't see it. I mean, I guess the physical manifestations of it are hard to identify as well. I mean, you can hide what's going on in your head to an extent. So, how incredibly, profound but traumatic to do those kind of talks. 3 hours as well, Robyn.
3 hours. And I was traveling around. I'm just going to shut the window. Hang on a sec.
Sure.
Someone's doing gardening next door and mowing. Yeah, I must admit, after I honestly think it was a couple of months of doing that, traveling around, as staying in motels and stuff. And I remember, because I was back living in Sydney, but I went and saw a friend in Noosa afterwards, and she does energy work and stuff. And she backed right off when she saw me. She said, Robyn, what have you been doing? And I said,
oh, wow.
She said, I cannot tell you. She said, you need to get on that table because your energy is so, she used the word dark, because I'm a bit of an empath. I've taken it on. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you were talking about the memorable experience. Is it just the experience of doing those talks? Or was there an outcome with someone in an audience or something that you wanted to share?
Probably not in those ones, because I didn't get, they were just like, thank you, I understand.
Yeah.
But there was a talk on the Gold Coast recently, and I was talking about one of the men that was in a domestic abuse program.
Right.
And he was talking about, when he was a little boy and what had happened with his little mate. There's a clip of it on my YouTube channel. And one of the young men in the audience came up to me later and said, thank you. He had been in jail. And of course, one of the things that he had found since getting out of jail, attempted to get a job, people were judging him. And he understood that what I was talking about was, and I don't want to get biblical because I'm not biblical per se, but the thought that comes to mind is, whoever cast the first stone, it's like we all have our warts, no
one's perfect.
No one's perfect. We've all done crap. Some of us just haven't been caught.
That's exactly right.
It's like that statement from the boardroom to the jailhouse. And some people say, well, there's a lot of people in boardrooms.
There should be in the jailhouse.
So this young man got that I wasn't going to judge him.
Right.
And he also got that I had some understanding that, whatever, because he didn't talk about what he did, But whatever he did, it wasn't the essence of who he was. It was his learned behavior from childhood that he didn't have any support to overcome and heal. Yeah.
And actually, you know, I used to work with the guy who was part of, I think it was the Children First or Child First Foundation. And I remember him telling me that all of the, you know, so much of the abuse and the trauma that happens into young children by family members or whatever, because it has happened to them, and that it's just this never ending cycle that unless we break it, it's just going to continue because people do, you know, learned behavior and all that kind of thing. So, wow, pretty heavy topic there, Robyn, anyway.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, that's the other thing over the years is having been trained up, you know, by the University of Life, I know more how to manage my emotions.
Right.
You know, what you were just saying, because it's generational trauma. It gets passed down. And we're seeing it play out in the world now. We're seeing it in our workplaces. We're seeing it in our young people in the community. And, you know, yet again, people say, well, you know, how do we solve this? And for me, one of the big things is taking these people out into nature, because when we get away, when we get away from concrete and cement and, you know, all these things.
Have your hands in the dirt.
And together as a team, and we just do things in nature and we reconnect, especially young people, back to here.
I love that. And also what you get when people go away is that bonding that always happens when you have a group. So suddenly they've got a support network that they possibly didn't have before, and people who understand and are invested in them.
Yeah.
Wow, Robyn. Well, look, I could keep talking forever with you because you are truly amazing. And I would encourage anyone who wants an inspirational speaker or someone to help with their team or whatever to understand human behavior, that Robyn is the woman to speak to. Robyn, if other than, obviously, you've got a profile on womenspeakers.com.au, how else can people get hold of you if they'd like to book you?
My website, which is robynwalker.net, and the Robyn is a Y-N, not an I-N. So you've got the name there. So robynwalker.net is my website. So yeah, and they can also go in there, and there's a link in there to go to my YouTube channel. And I can see us, you know, a whole bunch of the conversations over the years with some really amazing, like a lot of people would know the Caroline Macers and the Greg Bradens and the Bruce Liptons. You know, when they came out from America, I had the absolute privilege of, you know, sitting in real time across
in a room.
them.
That's amazing. And tell everyone, because you mentioned, you sent me something this morning saying you've got 5,000 subscribers. Is that right?
It's almost, I think it's 4.9 something.
That is amazing, because I've had my YouTube channel, 3 or 4 years, and I think I'm up to 347 or something. So you're doing incredibly well. That is truly amazing. You're a very inspirational woman, Robyn. So thank you very much for doing this interview with me today. Well, it's true. If I could reach through, I'd give you a big hug.
Well, we'll go in December at the
She's the Boss Christmas party. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Anyway, I really appreciate it. I can't wait to hear what people think of this interview, because, you know, you're great.
Thank you, Jules, and thank you for what you do, because AWS, Australian Women Speakers, we know, you know, women have so much to offer. And we could talk about men's business and women's business, but we don't have time. But women's business, women coming from their heart space, so necessary to be out in the world to help create this village again.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think the balance, we've got a lot of male domination in speaking, but we need the women coming in talking about some of the nurturing and the more human.
Yeah, because it's never about making the men wrong per se, because it's not. It's just, as you say, it's just bringing